Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep on this really interesting part of Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Oh, yeah.
This section is all about taxes and corporations
Yeah.
and how those two kind of work together. We'll be looking at how that whole Robin Hood idea about taxes might have actually backfired.
Interesting.
Also, how corporations are like this
Right.
this financial shield,
Yeah.
and what it really takes to develop that financial intelligence to play the money game smarter.
I think this part of the book is it's a really fascinating look at how people build wealth
Exactly.
and how they protect it within the system.
Yeah, and it really challenges some of
Yeah.
those common assumptions.
For sure.
So let's break this down. So the excerpt starts off
Okay.
by talking about this idea of taxing the rich to help the poor, this Robin Hood concept.
Right.
But it makes this argument that historically,
Yeah.
this approach didn't really
It didn't really work out that way.
pan out as planned.
Yeah. The author looks back at the history of taxes,
Yeah.
and points out how they were meant to target the wealthy.
Okay.
But that burden actually shifted to the middle class.
So it's like this.
It's almost like a bait and switch, kind of.
Yeah. How did that happen?
Well, the idea of only taxing the wealthy, I
Well,
mean, that sounds good to a lot of people.
Right. Of course.
But the excerpt says that rich people use their understanding of the system,
yeah.
and they took advantage of corporations to kind of protect their wealth from these taxes.
Okay. So corporations become
You could say that.
the ultimate loophole.
Yeah, in a way. The book stresses that corporations,
Mhm.
they aren't like a building
Right.
or a group of people.
Right.
A corporation's really just this legal document. It creates the separate entity,
Yeah.
has different rules, especially for taxes.
So it's like having separate finances from your own personal finance.
Yeah, it's like a whole separate set of books.
Okay.
And this separation really matters because a corporation's money isn't tied directly to an individual's income statement or their balance sheet,
Okay.
and this lets them be strategic.
Yeah.
They can minimize their taxes in
Right.
ways that normal people just can't.
So this is where the lower corporate tax rates
Mhm.
and that thing about paying expenses with pre-tax dollars come in.
Exactly.
Okay.
Like, think about pre-tax dollars.
Okay.
So say you have a business expense,
Right.
like $100.
Mhm.
Now, as a person, you got to earn that $100,
Right.
pay taxes on it,
Right.
and then whatever's left,
You use that.
you can cover the expense.
Yeah.
But a corporation,
Yeah.
they can deduct that expense
Oh, wow.
before they even calculate taxes.
Okay.
So they saved the money they would have paid on that $100 in taxes.
So that's a
Yeah.
huge advantage.
It is.
And the book is saying this is how wealthy people,
Yeah.
they're able to avoid a lot of taxes.
That's the key point the author makes.
Even when tax policies
Yeah.
are supposed to be targeting them.
Yeah, he talks about this constant battle
Yeah.
between the people making money
Mm-hmm.
and the people trying to tax it.
Right.
And the wealthy are always trying to stay ahead.
He uses that imagery of the government needing blood donations from taxpayers.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful.
Yeah.
And corporations,
Mm-hmm.
they're like a shield for the wealthy.
Yeah. So what about everyday people?
Yeah.
Where do they fit into all this?
Well, he compares the wealthy being proactive to what he sees as the average person just being scared
Right.
and complying.
Yeah.
He says people just accept the deductions from their paychecks.
Yeah.
They don't even question if there's a better way to manage their money.
Right. And then he brings up his own story.
Right.
Working at Xerox, making good money, but still frustrated with all those paycheck deductions.
Yeah, and that frustration
Yeah.
is what leads to his big realization.
So he decides to start his own corporation
Exactly.
while he's still at Xerox.
Yeah.
That's where things get...
And that's
Right.
a big shift,
Yeah.
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 He goes from working for a corporation to working on his own corporation.
Exactly.
And that lets him use those advantages we've talked about.
Yeah. The lower tax rates.
Yeah,
The pre-tax expense deductions.
exactly.
Yeah.
Building assets more efficiently.
And he focuses on building his asset column
He does.
with real estate investments.
Yeah.
Which pretty quickly make more money than his salary.
And that's a key point.
Yeah, this isn't just about
It's not just about saving on taxes.
saving on taxes.
It's about building wealth differently.
Yeah. Using the corporate structure
Exactly.
to build wealth in a whole different way.
Right. And he buys a Porsche
Yeah, that Porsche.
with the money he makes from his corporation.
Yeah.
And that shows what's possible
Yeah, it's a symbol of what you can do
when you understand the rules.
when you understand and use those rules.
Yeah.
But it's important to say,
And it's important to be clear.
he isn't saying to do anything illegal
No, he's not.
or unethical.
Yeah.
He's showing the tools and strategies that are already there in the system.
He wants readers to learn about finances,
Yeah.
to understand taxes and corporations,
Yeah.
so they can make good choices about their own money.
So he's not giving financial advice.
No.
He's sharing his own story
Right.
and what he learned.
Exactly.
And it's a pretty inspiring story.
Yeah.
He talks about being frustrated, seeing those big deductions on his paycheck,
Yeah.
the excitement of making his own corporation,
Mm-hmm.
and then the feeling of being financially independent
Yeah.
at a young age.
It shows you can escape the rat race. You
Right.
got to change your mindset, and you got to commit to learning about money.
So to recap this excerpt from Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Okay.
it really challenges how we think about taxes and wealth.
Yeah.
It shows how corporations can be these powerful tools for financial freedom.
But only if you understand them.
Yeah, if you use them the right way.
And you got to develop your financial intelligence.
Right. It stresses how important that is.
In lots of different areas.
Accounting,
Investing.
understanding markets.
And the law. Those are the big ones.
Yeah, those are the foundations of financial success.
Yeah.
It's about taking control of your money,
Exactly.
not just accepting things the way they are.
Don't just go with the flow.
Right. But the question is,
Yeah.
how do we actually use these ideas?
That's the real question.
How can we start minding our own business even while we have a job?
We'll talk about that more as we go on.
Yeah, we'll look at the actual steps you can take to start building that financial foundation
Yeah.
and creating a more secure future.
Exactly. And we'll dig deeper into those 4 areas of financial intelligence and give you the knowledge and resources to make informed decisions about your finances.
I'm excited to dig in more after the break.
Me too. You know what really stands out about the author's story?
Yeah.
Is how seeing those big deductions on his paycheck at Xerox,
Right.
that's what really made him want to change things.
It's like a wake-up call.
Yeah, it really shows you how limiting it is to rely just on a paycheck, especially if you don't really know how to make your money work for you.
It's like he realized he was playing by someone else's rules,
Yeah,
and he wanted to make his own.
exactly.
And that advice from his rich dad to own the ladder,
Yeah.
that really seems to have stuck with him.
Oh, yeah, that idea of not just climbing the corporate ladder as an employee,
Right.
but actually owning the whole thing.
Yeah.
That's a huge shift in how you see things.
Yeah, it's about taking control.
Yeah.
You're the one creating your own financial future.
And the author's story shows
Yeah.
that you don't have to quit your job to do this.
That's a good point.
You can start minding your own business, like he says, while you're still working.
It's about taking those first steps towards financial independence,
Exactly.
like with his real estate investments.
Yeah, he was still selling Xerox machines.
Right.
But at the same time, he was building his financial foundation.
Yeah. Buying assets.
And that's where having your own corporation really helps.
Okay.
It gives you that structure to use those tax advantages
Right, the ones we talked about earlier.
and protect your assets.
Yeah.
He was basically playing the game his way.
Yeah, using the system to his advantage.
Exactly.
And then there's that Porsche he bought,
Oh, yeah.
using his corporate income.
Yeah. That's a powerful symbol.
Yeah.
Shows what you can achieve.
If you understand the rules of the game and you use them.
Yeah.
But we should be clear here.
Yeah. It's important to know.
He's not telling people to do anything illegal
No, definitely not.
or unethical.
Yeah.
He's just pointing out the tools and
Because
strategies
you're already there.
that are already available.
He wants people to educate themselves.
Yeah.
About finances.
Yeah, to understand all this stuff about taxes and corporations.
So they can make informed decisions.
Right, so he's not a financial advisor.
No, not at all.
He's just sharing his own experience.
Right, his personal journey.
Yeah, and the lessons he's learned.
Yeah, and it's pretty inspiring.
It is, he talks about feeling frustrated,
Mm-hmm.
seeing those deductions on his paycheck.
Yeah.
Then the excitement of setting up his own corporation.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, that satisfaction
Yeah.
of achieving financial independence at a young age.
Yeah, it shows that you can break free from that rat race.
Mm.
But you got to change how you think about money.
Yeah.
And you got to be committed to learning about it.
So let's recap what we've learned from Rich Dad, Poor Dad so far.
Okay.
It really challenges those traditional ideas about taxes and wealth.
It does.
It shows how corporations can be powerful tools for financial freedom.
But you have to understand them.
Yeah, if you use them correctly.
Right.
And it emphasizes the importance of building your financial intelligence
Yeah.
in all those areas we talked about.
Yeah. Accounting, investing, understanding markets and the law.
Yeah, all of those are essential for financial success.
Absolutely.
It's about being in charge of your financial future,
Yeah.
not just accepting things the way they are.
Take control.
But the question is, how do we actually put these principles into practice?
Right. How do we start minding our own business
Yeah.
while we still have a job?
That's the big question.
It is a big question, and that's what we'll explore next.
Yeah, we'll look at some practical steps.
Mm-hmm.
Things you can actually do to build your financial foundation.
Yeah, and create a more secure future.
And we'll take a closer look at those 4 key areas of financial intelligence
Exactly.
so you can make informed decisions about your money.
Because ultimately, knowledge is power. I like that. And when it comes to money,
Yeah.
that knowledge can be the key to unlocking your financial freedom.
You know, it's funny how we're kind of taught to think of taxes and corporations as these big, scary things
Yeah,
that only experts should deal with.
it's true. They seem so complicated.
Right.
Like most people feel powerless.
Yeah. But this part of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it really pushes us to,
Yeah.
demystify them,
Mm-hmm.
to understand that the rules aren't actually that hard to figure out.
Right.
It's like he's saying, don't be intimidated.
Yeah.
You can learn this stuff.
Yeah.
You can take control.
I like that.
And he breaks it down into those 4 areas of financial intelligence,
Right.
accounting, investing, markets, and the law.
And he explains what they mean,
Yeah.
why they matter.
Exactly.
It's like he's giving us this roadmap to build our own financial smarts.
Yeah, so we can make smart choices about our money.
Exactly.
So instead of feeling overwhelmed,
Right.
we can just take it one step at a time.
Yeah.
Learn a little bit at a time.
Exactly. And then that knowledge turns into action.
Yeah, like when he started his own corporation.
Yeah.
It wasn't just some theory.
No.
It was a strategic move.
Yeah, to reach his goals.
Yeah, and it's not just about being rich.
Yeah.
It's about having options.
Yeah, having freedom.
Yeah, more control over your life and your finances.
Exactly. You break free from living paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
You're not at the mercy of the system anymore.
Yeah, you're in charge.
You take ownership.
That's a powerful message.
It is. Especially these days when so many people feel like they're struggling financially.
Yeah, it really makes you think.
It goes beyond just money, too.
Okay.
It's about taking charge of your life no matter what your situation is.
Yeah, creating a future that you want.
Exactly. A future that matches your values.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Yeah.
what's the biggest thing you're taking away from it? What's that one key idea that you think listeners should really remember?
I think the most important thing is that financial education isn't just for rich people.
Yeah, I agree.
Anyone can learn this stuff.
If you're willing to put in the time,
Yeah, and use what you learn.
the tools and strategies are out there.
Yeah, we just gotta find them.
Yeah, and use them.
Yeah, it's about empowering ourselves.
Right. Taking control of our finances.
Not feeling like we're stuck.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that message is something everyone can relate to.
Yeah, no matter what your financial situation is right now.
We all have the potential to be financially free.
But it all starts with learning about money.
That's the first step.
So for anyone listening who wants to take action,
Yeah.
what would you recommend they do first?
Check out those resources the author mentions.
Yeah, like the books by Garrett Sutton.
Yeah, they go deeper into corporations,
Yeah.
how to use them strategically.
Knowledge is power.
For sure, the more you know about money,
Yeah.
the better decisions you can make.
It's about being involved in your financial journey,
Yeah,
not just watching from the sidelines.
exactly. And don't be afraid to ask for help.
Yeah, there are so many resources out there.
Financial advisors, online groups.
Yeah, they can help you figure things out.
Find what works for you.
Great advice. Well, that's about all the time we have for today.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
It's been fun.
Yeah, it's been a really interesting look at taxes, corporations, and the importance of financial intelligence.
It has. And remember, the journey to financial freedom is a marathon.
Not a sprint.
Take it slow, keep learning, and never stop looking for new opportunities.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe someday you'll be sharing your own success story.
Inspiring others to take control of their finances.
That's what it's all about. Thanks for listening, everyone, and until next time, keep diving deep.